Hi everyone, I'm Michael Iakovou from KI Legal. We are at the historic 40 Wall Street, joined here with Felicia Kalan, running on the Republican and Independent ticket for District 22,
That's
which
right.
is where I'm originally from. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So again, I'm a candidate for City Council District 22. I have two kids, 6 and 5, so that's a huge part of who I am. I'm a mother, and I really decided to run for City Council because I saw City Hall that was very out of touch with everyday people and everyday families like ours. A little bit about my personal background. I am a former legislative aide. I'm a co-founder of a national nonprofit called Unchained. So we actually told the story of human trafficking through fashion shows across the nation and domestic violence as well. And then I went on to become the VP of a company called Cohatch. So it's actually a co-working space. I did the role mostly remote here in New York City, but it's headquartered in the Midwest. And what they do is they create co-working and social enterprise incubator spaces to help revitalize local economies by investing in local startups. So supporting local entrepreneurship, rebuilding the city by investing in local entrepreneurs. That's a huge part of why I'm running for office.
So, a lot of nuanced experience there.
That's right.
That's important because we as people build on that experience. Our roadmap brings us to where we are today. And with that being said, one of the things I hear from so many of our clients, and by way of review, we represent somewhat over 200 independent business owners in and around New York City. It's just City Hall is so out of touch, and the politicians aren't advocating for us, even though we elected them. And
That's right.
what do you think of when you hear things like that?
Yeah, I mean, out of touch is just the perfect phrase because that's, again, why I'm running for office. And I think a lot of elected officials, they've never had a business before. A lot of them aren't parents. There's so many issues that we vote on at City Council in regards to the budget and all these city agencies that have oversight, but yet we're electing people who have no clue what decisions they're making and how they're impacting people on the ground. And so that's why I decided to run a campaign that was really centered on people.
Common sense politics,
and common
right?
sense.
Something that should be common sense, but it's not.
Exactly. That's exactly
Yeah.
right.
And your slogan here, I have it written down right here, people before politics. Why? What does that mean to you?
It's about putting people first. I think in a very divisive time in our city and in our country, really, it's about bringing politics back to our neighborhoods and fighting for real representation. We've had a $92 billion budget. It was just cut to 88, and now the proposed budget for the next cycle is $98 billion. That's a lot of money.
Where's that money coming from?
Exactly. Where's the money coming from, and where's the money going?
Exactly.
Are the two questions. A lot of it comes from property taxes, and of course our sales tax, and all the taxes we pay to help our city function.
And look, I think most people don't have an issue with taxes,
Right.
But they want transparency.
They
want to know
transparency.
where the money's going, how is it being
Exactly.
put to good use, and is it being used efficiently?
Right.
Right.
Right. And when you go out and you see trash all over your street, you see a
Potholes.
your infrastructure crumbling, you have to ask the question, where is the money going? And I think a lot of people are asking that, and especially as the world shut down with the COVID-19 pandemic, people were more aware of what was happening.
Because they actually had a second to stop and
Exactly.
look at what was going in front
Well,
of
they
them.
were forced to,
Exactly,
especially,
yeah.
and to see that, who we elect at a local level truly matters.
And I would venture to say that who we elect at a local level matters more than at a federal and national level, because
true.
those are the people that are going to have decision-making power that are going to impact you the most on a day in, day out basis. So with
Right.
that being said, how will the public be involved in your decision-making process? How will
Yeah.
you listen to them?
Yeah, I think it's something that I've tried to do really starting on the ground during my campaign. So I actually started off with a survey. We went around, we knocked on doors. I'm a ground girl. We talked to a lot of
guerrilla
people.
marketing.
Yeah, some guerrilla marketing, and asked, what do you care about? What are some of the top issues? Public safety was number one, of course. rebuilding our local economy, our small businesses, affordability, a lot of those conversations, which you could kind of see through citywide polling, and it was similar in our district as well. So how I would lead is, obviously you want to lead and represent the true needs of the community. You have to ask what the community wants. And I've heard a lot about sanitation issues, and that's something we've been on the ground actually working really hard to get the trash off the streets. We have cleanup crews go out, but in regards to when I'm elected to city council, there's this thing called discretionary funding. So the community can actually be involved in where some of the funding goes. So you have your budget that you're voting on that's going to various city agencies, and then you have a pot of money that comes back to the districts, and people get to vote on where that money's going. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't know that even exists.
I didn't even know that existed.
Right? So getting the word out there, this is how you participate. And also, I'm going to have service Saturdays with Felicia. So we're going to be out on the ground, working in the community, getting people involved and stewarding our community well, and just having an open conversation and dialogue.
I love the energy, and I love just the new approach. I think the old ways of doing, if the last year and a half has taught us anything, the old ways of doing things are gone.
That's
we
right.
need to re-look at our processes, our procedures, and how we function as a society, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So going back to our small business clients, which are numerous, many of them are in the hospitality and restaurant industry. Not all was bad on the legislative front during COVID. One of the good things that came out of it was alcohol beverages to go,
Right.
which I know have been taken off the table now. I know that you had advocated for them as a good way to help support the small businesses that are in and around the city. What other ideas do you have that come to mind that will support growing the bottom line for these small hospitality businesses?
I'm full of ideas, so are you
Give us
ready
a
for it?
couple. Yeah, let's hear them.
So actually, Eric Adams had this idea as well, but it's Sales Tax Free Tuesday.
Okay.
So finding a day of the week that business is typically a little bit slower, and having a sales tax free day that would help. This would only be for small businesses. That would actually help drive people to those local small businesses. One of the big problems we have, there's over 6,000 rules and regulations that small businesses have. There's about 250, I'm told, permits or licenses around starting a business or keeping your business going. And unfortunately, when you go to navigate that as a small business owner,
It's overwhelming.
it's so overwhelming. You have to hire someone to help you.
Exactly.
They are waiting to penalize you. And it feels that way when you start a business. And that's something that we have to change. If we want to rebuild our local economy in the city of New York, it has to change. It has to be streamlined.
Streamlined, you took the word right out of my mouth. And I think that over legislation, again, there's a purpose for the legislation, there's a
Right.
purpose for the laws, but the purpose should be, it shouldn't overwhelm or it should be subservient to the business actually functioning and making money for the owner and for the community.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And it should be on one system. It could be under small business services, and they should get a notification. This is the next step. This is the next step. The city should be helping these small businesses that are the bedrock of our communities.
Exactly. And it starts with that. And then one of the other issues that we've seen, not just in New York, but across the country, is the labor shortage. Hospitality, restaurants, they can't find, business operators can't find people to work.
It's true.
What are your thoughts on this?
I think a lot of it has to do with, I'll give myself as an example, a lot of parents are out of the workforce because schools haven't been consistent. Myself as an example.
That's a great point.
Right, so you have, obviously in the restaurant industry, I don't know the stats on how many parents, how many mothers, how many single mothers, but if you have kids at home and there's not a consistent, school time to take their kids to school, that causes some issues in it, and it's a barrier. It's certainly a barrier for working mothers to enter the workforce. I think that's a huge thing. Also, I think what we need at a local level, something I would definitely propose is an app. an app that would actually help connect New Yorkers to jobs that are in New York, as well as training resources and all of that. We can't talk about that without talking about the digital divide. There are still New Yorkers who don't have access to Wi-Fi, and we have to change that. That's something that I believe everyone should have access to Wi-Fi in the world that we live in today. And I want to help transition. If you have a constituent concern, not everyone, especially our elderly population, they're not going to be able to utilize that technology. But we need to streamline, and we need to make sure that those services are available for people.
And I think on a business front, those services, they're great.
Right.
But they should be geared to also help the business owner and operator as well.
Right.
Get
That's
the word
exactly
out,
right.
help market your business.
Right.
So many business owners are losing business to the Amazons of the world.
Exactly.
The city, the public needs to do a better job at helping them fight back.
That's exactly
And
right. That's exactly
unfortunately,
right.
if I own a 1 location or even a 10 location restaurant, I don't have the wherewithal to fight the Seamlesses and the Grubhubs of the world. But if the city joins in as a partner,
Right.
now I do.
Exactly.
And that's super important. I'm very interested in
Yeah.
seeing how that plays out.
Absolutely.
One of our firm's most common services is helping streamline labor and employment for our small businesses. Whether it's health department shutdowns, Department of Labor suits, or something else, it's so difficult for these business owners to even know
Right.
what the laws are
Right.
to be compliant.
Yes.
How do we help that process? How do we make it easier for the business owner just to stay open and not be beholden to some of these archaic laws that just, quite frankly, don't make any sense anymore?
Right. I'll go back to, right when the pandemic happened, the restaurants and a lot of the businesses were shut down. But then there was a time where they were able to do outdoor dining and alcohol to go. And those things happened so quickly. And the city was able to get it together and, to your point, do a couple good things to make sure that some of those businesses survived. We have to get it together a little bit more quickly now.
Absolutely. But we need to be more proactive, not
Exactly.
reactive.
Exactly.
And I understand the halls of city government, they don't work efficiently sometimes.
Right.
But again, they need to, because people are depending on this.
That's right.
The old ways, as I said, of doing it are no longer.
Yeah, and I'm gonna, for me, it's about accountability. If and when I'm elected, there's only 3 of the 51 members of City Council who are Republican, and there's not a lot of people looking out for businesses, and I take it very seriously that I will be that voice, and I will. There's no reason that a small business has to wait 6 months for a permit or some sort of approval for a process. It's 60 days, the max. We have to start looking at what particular
Expediting
permit.
liquor licenses.
Exactly,
and-
expediting everything, because we don't have time to wait around, because we're going to lose these businesses.
And once
Not-
they're gone forever.
They're gone, and they're our tax base. If you want to fund the important social services, you have to have a tax base. If we're losing our population, if we're losing our small businesses, where do we have to go from there
So
in rebuilding?
To that point, if you drive up and down, say, Steinway Street, for example, there are so many vacant commercial spaces.
true.
Obviously, the CO, the use clause or use provision of the CO says this is a commercial space, it can only be used for commercial space. What are your thoughts on the possibility? I know this has been a very topic in the news, of quick conversion of those spaces, either to resi or to commercial, some kind of flexibility.
Yeah, I think, I'll start with saying that there's a lot of lifers in Astoria that feel like their community is changing very quickly.
It is.
And they're not happy with that. And we do have a lot of those larger companies coming in. Target is coming in now on Ditmars. Who would have thought, Target would be there in that space? So we have to have balance. And one of the ways that I would approach refilling Steinway Street, for example, is investing in those local entrepreneurs and small businesses. If we can grow the small businesses we already have, or incubate a local entrepreneur, give them, and connect them to investors.
Vis-a-vis grants?
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha.
So grants, and also I have an idea, and I'm actually doing it right now. I have a headquarters space on 23rd Avenue, and on Mondays, if you're a local entrepreneur, you can come, you can have Wi-Fi, we can, shoot the breeze, I can help you with your business. And this is just, just a friendly thing. But when I'm elected to city council, I want to have a space that's an incubator space for entrepreneurs. And we want to refill those vacant commercial spaces with local entrepreneurs so we can keep the character of the neighborhood. And part of the discretionary funding that I would propose to the community is a historic preservation grant. So if you're a struggling small business and you've been around 50 years or more, I believe we have a duty to help you. And I think a lot of people rally around in the community to help those struggling small businesses, but I think the city can do more, especially as costs have gone up. But to answer your point with Steinway Street, certainly we have a growing population. We're already seeing a lot of, residential development. There just has to be balance. There's going to be change. There already is change.
And I don't want to get killed for saying this, but it's almost too much development at some time, too quickly, and it can become a bit overbearing for the residents, just on a day in, day out basis.
Right.
When the simplest of tasks, say going to the supermarket, now become a 2-hour affair, because by the time you find parking, by the time you get there, you dodge the potholes.
Right. It's really the growing population, and we don't have the parking is a huge issue. We don't have the infrastructure to continue to grow without building up, right? So there has to be a plan. And I think, in talking about development, making sure that we're partnering with good developers. A lot of the people that I've met, there are people who've grown up in Astoria and they're in real estate and they're good people. And,
of course. A lot of them are my clients.
Right. So leveraging those relationships of people who want to, meet a need really, which is housing, but also how do we leverage those relationships for when we have budgetary constraints? How do we link those things?
It's a fine dance.
It's a
to your
dance,
point,
yeah.
They're also creating jobs. They're creating taxes for the state and all those good things.
Right.
So we've spoken about from here back how the city responded to COVID-19. What are the good things? What are the bad things? On a personal level, I'm very bullish on the future of New York.
Yeah.
We're doubling down, the law firm's doubling down, we're hiring. We believe that the next 10, 15 years in New York are going to be, the roaring 20s, as they put it.
Yeah.
What are your personal thoughts for the future of New York?
Yeah.
How do you see it?
I agree. It's going to be a new era where there's a lot of entrepreneurship. I think we've already seen a lot of people who are filing for new businesses, which is exciting. The last 2 years that we've had, they've been a struggle, but also a lot of people out of necessity have started businesses and, they maybe lost their job and this is the time to rebuild. So we have to get behind them and make sure they can do that. I think a lot of it's going to, depend on city council, not 100%. New Yorkers will always rise, I believe that. We'll always come back stronger, but certainly city council can either close a door or open a door for people. We have to elect door holders.
We have to keep that door open.
That's right.
How do we find out more information about your campaign?
Yeah.
How can constituents get in touch with you, share their concerns, questions?
Yeah. Absolutely. So if you want to learn more about me, you can visit www.feliciakalan.com. We have a team of people ready to, meet you where you are, help with the constituent concern. If you have a small business and you need help navigating, I'm not the current elected city councilwoman, but I'll do all that I can to make sure that, your needs are met. And, always follow me on social media at Kalan for QNS, and our email is info@feliciakalan.com.
And most importantly, when is Election Day?
Election Day is officially November 2nd. We do have early voting in the city of New York that starts October 23rd. So you have time to go out and vote, and hopefully you keep me in mind.
And it's super important. Here's all of our chance to go out and vote, right? Be the change that you want to see. Get out and advocate for your positions, and hopefully Felicia is the person to do it for us. I'm Michael Iakovou from KI Legal. Thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck in the election.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.